of From the Shed End podcast with myself, T Dot. As always, joined by Theo. So first and foremost, how you doing, Theo?
I'm good. I'm good. Busy day of work. We are just talking, but happy to finally find some time to talk about Chelsea and football. And also, I think since the last time we spoke, we had Willian interact with us on the Instagram account,
Yeah,
ex-Chelsea footballer Willian. So yeah, we posted a video of him taking a free kick at Wembley, and he commented on the video, and he viewed our story and liked the video as well. So that was quite nice.
still
So
a
if
blue.
you're still a blue, exactly, maybe missing Chelsea a bit, but if you're not following us on Instagram, make sure you follow us from the shed end, underscores between each part of the wording. But yeah, engage with us, interact with us because we're posting a lot of new content on there.
Yeah, and I know you've been busy on the Instagram as well. So there's a lot of historical moments on there already. I'm sure there's going to be many more that Theo's going to post on there as well. But let's dive straight into it. I think we want to touch on the West Ham game last weekend. We didn't really get to record up until now, so I think now's probably a good time to bring up that. So good win for us, 1-0. It was a convincing performance. What were your thoughts on the way we played?
I thought it was a great performance. Very, very similar to the away games against Liverpool and Tottenham. I felt got that first half goal and kind of looked relatively comfortable in the second half. Even though we kind of didn't really get that second goal, maybe we needed to make things a bit more comfortable. I thought Werner's goal was great. He looked quite sharp. He kind of not bullied, but he kind of kept possession against Bonner in the middle of the pitch, and then played it, I think, to Pulisic, who played it to Chilwell, and then Chilwell crossed it back to Werner, which was a brilliant goal. Formation-wise, I was a bit surprised to see Azpilicueta at right wing back. I think it's the first time we've seen him in that position under Tuchel. He's usually played a Reece James or Hudson-Odoi. But in the end, I think, he does lack a bit of pace at times, Azpilicueta. When he does go really high up the pitch, and we saw that again against Real Madrid last night. But when he does do that, we've got the joy of having Kante in midfield who can just slot in or intercept those balls that kind of, get in that dangerous area. So all in all, I think it was a great performance, really, really important 3 points against a team that are challenging us for top four. And that means we now overtake them in fourth position. So it's in our hands now. So I think that's the most important thing. But yeah, great performance in the London derby and 3 vital points.
Yeah, and I thought it was odd to myself when I saw the lineup and saw Azpilicueta. To be honest, he did well. He did well there. I was sort of apprehensive before the game kicked off, and I thought, has he got the legs to keep up? But we did what we needed to do. We kept the key players for West Ham quiet. I want to get your views on the sending off, which I think has now been rescinded as well, because that was a big talking point after the game as well.
I don't think it was a red. Had that happened to a Chelsea player, I would have been fuming. Very, very harsh on Balbuena and West Ham. I say it's very harsh, but it did happen, I think, in the 82nd minute. So I'm not sure it would have fully impacted the game. But had that been a sending off early in the second half or even in the first half, I think that's when you start to, as a West Ham fan, be really, really frustrated and feel like, you've been robbed. But I'm happy that it got rescinded because I think it was the wrong decision from the referee. So I think a bit of justice there for West Ham. But yeah, I do want to see a bit more clarification around that rule because we've seen it a few times this season. That kind of trailing foot after a cross or a clearance or even a pass that can catch a player awkwardly. So I would like to see a bit more clarification around what's a yellow, what's a red, what's a foul, what's not a foul.
Yeah.
But yeah, very harsh.
And then also as well, because I think it was the first introduction that we've seen for a while of Tammy Abraham, albeit in the 87th minute. But and I know we touched on it on our last episode, but what, do you think, bringing him on was just to give Werner that rest in that looking forward to the game that we're going to discuss shortly, Real Madrid? Was that the thinking behind it, or do you think it was just prove what you can do in the little time that you've got from Tuchel?
I think it's a mix of both. I think Tuchel has now kind of made his mind up with Giroud, and I think it's obvious now that he's not going to stay past the summer. I think it's one of the clubs in Italy are linked with him. I think it's Lazio, Roma. So I don't think he'll be a Chelsea player come next season. So maybe that's in the back of Tuchel's mind thinking, okay, maybe I need to find a second choice, number 9 for next season. Let's see what Tammy Abraham can do. And we spoke about it. He hasn't played, I think, since February when he got injured against Newcastle. So it was a moment to shine for him. He did have that chance, which he almost seemed to be too tall to put it in the back of the net of the header. But yeah, I would like to see a bit more of him for the remaining games of the season. We've got so many games coming thick and fast now, and even Fulham on Saturday. When you kind of think you've got Madrid next Wednesday, the second leg, that's a game which I think we should rotate a few kind of
Mm.
positions, maybe a few players. And I think Abraham is, he's proved it. He can play in these type of games. So I would like to see him lead the line against Fulham on Saturday and play a bit of a role with these last 5 or 6 games to
Yeah.
finish up the season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's still got a part to play. I think it'd be a shame if we lose Abraham because I think he's still very relatively young in terms of his footballing career, and we know what he can do. We've seen it at Chelsea. We've seen it when he was at Aston Villa as well in the Premier League. I think no, that wasn't in the Premier League. That was a Championship.
Mm.
But he's still proven at Premier League level with Chelsea that he can play at that level. I do think some of his decision making is a bit off or his positioning, but I think that comes with time and experience and game time as well, which obviously he hasn't really got since Tuchel's been in charge. So it will be interesting. I'd be sad to see him go. I mean, he's a Chelsea through and through. He's come through the ranks at Chelsea as well. And I think if we lost him, he could actually do damage to us by losing him. He is a proven goal scorer. So I couldn't really see him going to a mid-table team. Maybe an Arsenal would pick him up, I don't know. Would that be a deal that we could see happening? But I think if we lost him, it would be detrimental to us because I think he's someone that we can bring on during games, like you said. We can rotate the squad. We can bring him into a game like against Fulham, knowing that we've got a big game midweek next week as well. So it'll be interesting to see. I'll be sad to see him go. He's a good player for me.
Yeah, I agree. We spoke about, I think, in one of the earlier episodes, potentially type of player that would fit perfectly at a Leicester or a West Ham.
Yeah.
Vardy's only getting older, so that could be an option for him if he does want to be that first choice striker at one of those teams. But as an academy player, you do want to see him do really well at Chelsea. And he did do that last season. That first Premier League goal he scored for Chelsea at Carrow Road against Norwich. I think he scored a brace that day. You could see how much it meant to him when he ran towards Lampard. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I think a lot of Chelsea fans thought, we found our number 9 that day. He looked really kind of sharp. And then he went on. He scored a hat trick, I think, at Molineux. He scored a brace against Sheffield the following week. So it would be really sad to see him go, but it completely depends if he wants to be, first choice number 9 at elsewhere, or if he wants to kind of fight for his position potentially against someone like Lukaku or Haaland if one of these big prolific number 9s do come in next season at Chelsea. But I do think he's got a role to play for sure in this season and hopefully next season.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Let's move over to last night's game. Obviously, if you're watching live, you can see that I've got a big smile on my face. If you're not, I've got a big smile on my face because we played really well against a team that I thought were going to give us some more trouble than they did. I was impressed. I was impressed with the way we started. I said to you before the game offline, we need to have a good solid 15, 20 minutes of just keeping possession, shutting down anything that Real Madrid are doing and pressing them as well, which we did all 3 things. What were your initial thoughts when you saw the formation, the tactics were all the same as the sort of like dress rehearsal on Saturday against West Ham? What were your thoughts on all of that?
I thought Tuchel was coming into the game with a game plan, same formation and same starting 11 that played at the London Stadium on Saturday. I was more comfortable having Aspi at right wing back. You want that experience from a player like him in a Champions League semi-final. And those back 3 of Silva, Rudiger and Christensen, they've been just superb and spotless since Tuchel's come in, particularly Rudiger. I think, start of the year, back end of last year, he was getting a lot of stick from Chelsea fans, maybe playing a part in the Lampard dismissal. That was kind of one of the rumours. But he's really won me over recently. He's been absolutely superb, blocking shots. So really, really comfortable defensively from all 5 defenders. But similarly to you, I think it was an amazing start, electric start, if anything. Werner miss, which I think we'll talk about in a bit. But I think that kind of set the pace of the game. It said that, we're going to be having these chances. They look weak at the back. I think that back 3 from Real Madrid didn't suit them at all. It almost felt like they weren't playing with a left wing back. I'm not sure if that was Marcelo or someone else, but it was a huge gap in that part of the pitch, which allowed players like Pulisic, Mount to get all that kind of freedom that they like. But really, really electric start, which seems to be a kind of a recurring theme with Chelsea this season, or at least since Tuchel's come in. Kind of electric first 20 minutes. We get that goal, and then we sit back a bit, and particularly in the second half. So one bit of criticism I'll say is we didn't get that second goal. A really important away goal from Pulisic, and an amazing goal, if anything. Look, really kind of, we have to remember he's 22 years old.
Yeah.
Christian Pulisic, 22 years old, first American ever to score in a Champions League semi-final.
I think he's the youngest Chelsea player as well, isn't he, in the semi-finals?
Yeah, youngest Chelsea player to score in a semi-final and first American in the history of the Champions League. So, we forget he's 22, and performances like yesterday remind me so much of Eden Hazard, how he kind of dribbles past players, and when they don't know what to do with him, they just tackle him or foul him. I think he was tackled a fair bit yesterday and got players of Madrid booked. But yeah, just that second goal. Had we got that second goal, which I think we did deserve on the night, it would have made things a lot more comfortable going into the second leg as well. Could have even settled the tie. And it seems to be, we've done it a lot this season, but luckily we're quite comfortably defensively. Bar maybe there's the Benzema goal and that other Benzema chance. They didn't really kind of attack too much or have those chances that made you very nervous. So I think more of the same in the second leg, and I think we should be able to, cross that finish line and get to Istanbul, I had hope.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, because watching Real Madrid previous to last night's game, I can't really remember them playing three at the back that often, and we've played that under Tuchel since his arrival, so it suited us to have that formation. We're familiar with it. But it just didn't suit Real Madrid at all. There were so much gaps and space, and like I said earlier, both teams were pressing, but we're used to doing that as the formation that we're used to playing. Real Madrid just weren't. They were great at pressing, but when they lost the ball, it was all like deer in the headlight moments, and they weren't really sure what to do, whether to to engage with Chelsea or just to sit back and wait for that approach. But I agree with you. I think we had plenty of chances to get a second goal. Obviously, I was in shock when Timo Werner didn't put enough power in the shot. I think that's all it needed, was a bit more power. It was an opportunity. He could have taken it. He didn't, but I do think we played well. I think we played well. I think they only had one shot on target for it, which I think is the goal. I'm pretty sure they only had one shot on target throughout the whole game, but we retained possession well. Even the subs that they brought on, Asensio, they brought on Hazard, didn't really change the game for them. But we brought on, I'm trying to think now who it was. I think we brought Reece James, Havertz, and Ziyech on at the same time, and that worked because I felt like at the time we were being sort of, the pressure was on us a little bit. Bringing those subs on suddenly changed the whole dynamic of the game, and we were suddenly back on top again. So I do think it works for parts of the game. I did feel at the time watching the game and watching it back this morning that Azpilicueta, I don't know if I'd play him at right wing back in the second leg, and my reasons for that is I think there were times where he was caught out slightly. I know a lot of people mentioned around the goal that he was caught out for the goal. I think he was unlucky, but I don't think there was anything Mendy could have done. He was too close to him. But I think we've got every right to think we can get in to the final from the way we played yesterday.
Yeah, Aspi did look very tired. I think around the 70th minute mark, which probably means he's past 30 years old now. Bring right wing back to a position that requires kind of like fresh legs. We see it with Reece James and Hudson-Odoi, how they're able to kind of backtrack really quickly. So that I would agree with you there. Maybe play Reece James as right wing back in the second leg at Stamford Bridge. But I mean, the fact we're kind of not complaining, but a bit disappointed after a 1-1 draw against Real Madrid away from home says a lot about our expectations as Chelsea fans at the moment and how, we performed as a team on the night. Yeah. So I think that's a huge kind of, credit to us and credit to Tuchel, how he's kind of rejuvenated his team and brought us a lot of hope and expectations now going into that business end of the season and last 5 games of the Premier League, an FA Cup final and potentially a Champions League final. So, it's kind of, it's just wow.
We're spoiled.
We're spoiled. And yeah, a lot of Chelsea fans were complaining on Twitter yesterday. And I was thinking, this is crazy. We're complaining after a draw against Real Madrid, who've won 3 Champions Leagues in a row in the last 5 or 6 years. So it says a lot about our expectations for sure.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to pick up on as well was Kante, because I think Kante was probably, people's bat around the term world class quite easily, but for me, he's got to go in that bracket of players that are world class. I don't think I've watched a player run for 90 minutes and still look like they could run for another 90 minutes for 2 days straight. He's that kind of player that just doesn't stop. Um, he's immense. I think he got man of the match yesterday and deservedly as well. But he's just someone that
Yeah,
we have to appreciate because he's brilliant on and off the ball. I think his movement going forward's been better under Lampard and Tuchel. He's been able to move the ball better. His decision making going forward's even better as well. Defensively, he knows how to cut things out. I mean, Luka Modric probably didn't have a sniff at anything yesterday. He didn't have anything to really do with the game for me anyway. So yeah, I think Kante's got to have an honourable shout out for yesterday's performance.
yeah, we've become so used to Kante performances like yesterday's that it's still worth praising because he is world
Mm.
class, and we've almost become so used to it that it's does he is he still world class? Is he not world class? But it's almost when he does make a small mistake or his performance is maybe a bit below a 10 out of 10, you start to notice it a bit more because you're so
Yeah,
used to it. But he was superb yesterday, and as you said, he kept Modric at bay, who is a very experienced player, a very kind of capable player on the big stage. And man of the match, I think, rightly deserved. Every single Twitter poll I saw asking for the man of the match, including our one we posted last night, was won by Kante. So deserved man of the match, and type of player that going in, if we were to go into a Champions League final and having him fit and
yeah.
available to play would give us a huge boost of confidence, I feel. So we're spoiled to have him.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And um, just interestingly knowing tonight there's a big game, which I'm sure you'll be watching. PSG, um, Man City, big game. So out of those two teams, and I can't remember if I've asked you this before, so forgive me if I have, but who would you prefer to face out of PSG and Man City
I
if we
think I've
get to the final? If we get
yeah,
to the final.
I've answered this before, but my decision and my choice is always changing. I feel, and it could potentially change after the game tonight.
Hmm.
Um, Based on what I've seen this season, I'd rather play Man City simply because we beat them in the FA Cup semi-final. Tuchel has maybe analysed their performances more this season, at least,
Yeah,
and I think their front three is potentially weaker. They didn't have that, number nine. Similar to us, they don't have that number nine who scores many goals. At least this season, they don't. Aguero has been very injured, and Gabriel Jesus has been in and out the team. Compared, especially when you compare that to Neymar and Mbappe,
yeah,
they can score for fun. And we saw Neymar's performance in the quarter final against Bayern. That was scary. It was scary how good he was. So so yeah, I'd definitely rather play Man City. And as I've said it before, when two English clubs play each other in a Champions League, anything can happen regardless of form. And I think, but the other side to me is thinking maybe Tuchel knows some of these PSG players,
yeah. I
so
was about to say
potentially,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
potentially, that might play a part if we do play PSG. He knows how Neymar play, he knows how Mbappe play. He was still managing them, I think, before Christmas, so this is still maybe
yeah,
fresh in the back of his mind, these performances. But I still rather play Man City. I feel like they've dropped off a bit in form the last month or two, and I think Guardiola's, he wants to wrap up the league quite early, so I think his focus is on that. But yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting game tonight because I think both teams have that depth in their squad. They have that level of players.
mm,
So I'm looking forward to that as well.
yeah. I sort of agree with you to an extent. I think I'd love to see a PSG Chelsea final. I do agree. Obviously, Tuchel will have more of a closer hand to what's happening in Manchester City's. You've got to prepare for them in the league in a couple of weeks anyway. Um, but I do think Tuchel will probably have an emotional side to him. Would also probably want to play PSG as well. But I think if we do get PSG, he's not going to want to lose to PSG more so than Man City. So I think just from the way that we've been watching Tuchel the last couple of weeks, he knows how to beat the big teams. And he doesn't really. Not to say that we can't beat the smaller teams. We've been doing really well under him, but I feel like when it comes to these big games, he doesn't let the team down. The team are behind him; they'll run through walls for him. So I think either or. I think it's probably the best answer, isn't it? I think we can only play who we've got in front of us. But if I had to choose one, I would like to see PSG more entertaining. I think an all English final. Um, I don't know if I'd want to see that. I think a PSG one would be more entertaining for not just myself. I'm sure for the neutrals as well.
Yeah, after hearing what you've had to say, it's true that we've been very good against the big teams, and I did speak about Mbappe and Neymar. But then thinking back, we've kept clean sheets against Luis Suarez, Harry Kane, Mo
Yeah,
Salah, who are all these amazing players. So there's nothing that says that we can't do it against the PSG in the
yeah,
final against Mbappe, Neymar, Di Maria. So yeah, either or, and I think whoever we play, similarly to 2012 when it was either Bayern or Real Madrid in the other semi-final, I think we're gonna have to play the best of the best to kind of win the best tournament. So
yeah.
definitely.
No, I agree. So it'll be interesting next Wednesday. Second leg, Stamford Bridge. I'm sure you wish you could attend.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, I'll be nervous as hell. Like last night, I
Mm.
think I had to go for a jog before I watched the game. I had to calm myself down somehow, so that was the only way. But next Wednesday, we take our 1-1 draw, and hopefully we can get the result we need. I'm sure every Chelsea fan wants to see us in the final, so fingers crossed we can do that.
Fingers crossed.
But let's get ourselves back onto the Premier League. Um, Fulham, still a big game. I put down that they're relegation struggling, Fulham, but they are a team that can cause any team in the Premier League problems. Scott Parker's got them playing really good football at the moment. They're still sort of, for me, the team that has left things too late. I don't think that people are still saying they might get out of the relegation. They may do, but I just think they've left it too late. But they can still cause us an issue in terms of getting the top four. So, what's your thoughts on the game for Saturday?
It's a really important game, almost as important as the West Ham one previous weekend. We need those three points now more than ever. My view about Fulham, their form pretty good now, particularly how they were playing at the start of the season, and they have left it very late. Had they played the way they had, maybe from January onwards, then I think they'd be top 15. Maybe they'd be quite comfortably sitting mid-table. But they've left it late. But I think they
Mm.
still want to kind of try to extend that hope of maybe staying in the Premier League. So they're going to give us a game on Saturday. We saw it at Craven Cottage early in the year. I think it was in January. They were 10 men, but they were still really pushing for that equaliser against us and that potentially even that opening goal. I'm expecting a very tricky game. Scott Parker's got them playing some good football, away draws against Tottenham and Arsenal in recent months.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be quite similar to the Brighton game, the way we played against Brighton. Couple, squad, couple rotations in the squad. I hope Tuchel doesn't tinker too much with the starting 11. But I'm expecting, the likes of potentially Alonso at left wing back. Kepa could potentially even start as a goalie. I think I spoke about Abraham earlier. But this is the perfect game for him to come in and prove his worth, and potentially his place in the squad for next season.
Mm.
But I'm expecting a very London derbies as well. A lot of pride at stake. So I'm expecting a very tricky game. I think we should. I say that, but with the way we played against Madrid, the way we played against these big teams, we need to be winning. We should win. We need to. We
Yeah.
have to win. And but it seems our form just slightly drops off against these not smaller clubs, but these clubs outside the traditional top six in the Premier League. So whether we can take that form and that passion and that energy against them, do put in a performance like we did against Crystal Palace and score 4 quite early on, then I think that's when we start to think, okay, now we can comfortably win these games. So I think we need to do that quite early on, and we need to take our chances as well.
Yeah.
I think we need to take our chances quite early on, like we did against Palace, and not like we did against Real Madrid and waste a lot of chances.
Yeah. No, I'd have to agree. And I think, like you said, we beat them 1-0, didn't we? At Craven Cottage. It's just one of those games that does worry me because it's obviously slap bang in the middle of the key important games for us in the Champions League. Are the players going to take their eyes off the Premier League, knowing that there's a big game, in a couple of days after that on the Wednesday? And also, like you say as well, Tuchel, the last couple of weeks he has liked to swap things around, which I think sometimes can mess that kind of togetherness, the cohesion of the team. And we've seen that quite a few times now, and it does worry me a little bit because I think we really all these games now, is it 5 games or 6 games left? They're all almost finals now for us, and I know that sounds very crazy, but until we're mathematically okay to get top four, there's no guarantee we're going to get into the final of the Champions League as well. Um, do we really want to miss out on getting, missing out on top four, but also missing out on the Champions League final, and then ending up with the Europa League? I wouldn't. I'd rather people call me crazy for this, but I'd rather miss out on Europa than actually playing, not playing that at all next season if it means that we can just get the team back to where it needs to be and push on. That may not be what everyone else as a Chelsea fan would agree with, but you always play catch up in the Premier League if you're playing on a Thursday night against, a team that no one's really heard of. And then, you've got to come back on a Sunday or Monday and you're playing catch up all season. You've got that injury, um, that chance of more injuries just for the fact, you play in those games over a quick turnaround as well. So I think for Fulham, I think they're going to be desperate. They're very much like the players that play for Chelsea. They run through walls for Scott Parker as well. They've suddenly turned on the we want to win every game mentality. I don't think they've won in the last 5 though, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they haven't won, although they were close to last weekend. But I think it'd be interesting. I agree. I think Kepa might start. I think there'll be a couple of players rested. I can't really see a Reece James starting. Maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi at right wing back, like you say, around Alonso, maybe even Emerson. We've spoken before about Billy Gilmore. I'm not sure why he's not getting a game, but again, perfect game to put him in as well. So it'll be interesting. We've got to win. We've got to get 3 points. I was right last night when I said 1-1. So was you. So I'm going to go for 3-0. I'm going to go for 3-0.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at our last 5 Premier League fixtures, on paper, this is our easiest one, because after this, we've got
Yeah.
Leicester, we've got Man City, we've got Arsenal,
Yeah.
we've also got Villa away, which is never an easy fixture. So I think we should be winning. I think we will win. I'm going to say 2-0. I think we will get that second goal, which has been so important to us, or should be so important to us. So yeah, 2-0, a goal in each half, in my opinion.
Yeah. Be interesting. I think if we don't win this as well, because we have to start thinking around, the chasing pack of other teams that are almost around us as well. West Ham are 3 points behind us, but then you also look at the likes of Everton, who's still got that game in hand as well. Obviously, Liverpool are still there in Tottenham. So, as I say, all these games now are really key, crucial games that we can't really afford to drop points. And like you say, you look at the Man City game, you look at even the Arsenal game, which, they can cause us issues and problems as well. Leicester, and like you say, Villa. So we've got to really start capitalising on just picking up as many points as we can now, and hope that the other teams around us also drop points as well.
Yeah, I mean, when we watched the West Ham game on Saturday, they were showing West Ham's next 5 remaining Premier League fixtures, and those are games you'd expect them to be winning. I think they've got West Brom, they've got
Yeah,
Southampton, and that's when made me realise that how valuable and important these 3 points are, and that we're about to get right now. So yeah, Fulham on Saturday is a must win, and I think we should be winning. And I can only echo what you said about the Europa League. I'd rather not be in it than be in it at times. And we saw it in Antonio Conte's first season, where we didn't have any European football at all to play. We kept clear of injuries. I think we only went through a couple of weeks with, I think, either Fabregas or Matic injured. But yeah, we walked the league that season. We looked very comfortable. We kind of had a game plan. We had the kind of same starting 11 for almost every Premier League fixture, which worked. So yeah, Europa League is a bit of a tricky one, and I'd rather not drop into that, 5th and 6th spot. And Everton, Tottenham, Liverpool are right behind us, so it's going to be a crazy end to the season.
So hopefully by 8 o'clock on Saturday, we'll all be cheering. We'll be the happy of the bunch at the weekend, and we can start looking forward to our second leg. One thing I know I wanted to touch on, I'm sure you wanted to as well, was a lot of conversation around Timo Werner. Is he fulfilling his full potential as a Chelsea player? We know what he can do, which he has done for RB Leipzig as well. But is he as a Chelsea player at the moment, is he fulfilling his full potential? Can he do more? And what's probably gone wrong for him as well? I suppose that's the bigger question.
I think when Chelsea fans signed him in the summer, we expected him to be that number 9 who would score us over 20 goals in this season, and be scoring for fun, almost like he was at RB Leipzig. I think he got over 30 goals that season
Hmm.
and managed to help them to a Champions League semi-final. So in that regard, is he fulfilling his full potential? Not this season, I don't think, because he's not meeting those numbers that we expected him to in last summer. He seems to also, when we do play him as a 9, he seems to be drifting a lot to the wing or kind of holding back,
Hmm.
which maybe seems that he's not very confident to be in the penalty box. And we saw it against West Brom as well when he was one-on-one with the keeper and he decided to pass it to Mount
Yeah.
to kind of tap it in instead. So I think it's a confidence issue that he's having at the moment. But at the same time, you do look at his numbers, and they're not too shabby. They're very good numbers. I think he's got over 10 goals this season in all competitions. Scored some important goals. I think a couple of penalties in
Some
group stages of
assists
the
as well.
Champions League. Some really important assists. The assist at Wembley against Man City, and as well to set up Ziyech against Atletico Madrid in the second leg. Well, really, really impressive assists when you think of the pace he has and kind of the way he's able to put it for whichever player's in the box on the plate. In this case, it was Ziyech. I think those are really important assists, but at the same time, it should be the roles reversed. It should be Werner in the box and Ziyech or Pulisic or Mount or whoever else
Mm.
on the wing, kind of providing him that assist. So I think I think it will come in time. I was talking to a friend on WhatsApp last night, and he's asking me what's going wrong with Werner. How did he miss this chance? And I think it's it reminds me a bit of Shevchenko and Torres at times. Come with a lot of expectations from the fans and also rival fans, and just hasn't really fulfilled that yet. But I think once the fans are allowed back at Stamford Bridge, they'll get behind him, because I haven't seen one single Chelsea fan turn on Werner, which makes me really happy as a Chelsea fan.
Mm.
They're backing him until the end, and I think they'll be in full voice at Stamford Bridge to cheer for him. So I think once Chelsea fans are allowed to be back at Stamford Bridge supporting him, and also once he gets a full preseason under his belt under Tuchel, and potentially a good competition Euros with Germany in the summer as well, I think that's when he starts to think, okay, I'm getting used to this league. I'm getting used to these opposition, the teams that he's facing. I'm getting used to the manager, my teammates. And that's when I think come August, September time, I'll answer that question. Is he fulfilling his full potential after a couple months of the upcoming season?
Yeah. I remember Dennis Bergkamp struggling in his first season at Arsenal. Um, I think he had and I'm sure I'm going to say Didier Drogba, but I might be wrong. You might have to correct me on that. But I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he struggled when he first
His
came to
first
the.
season, his first
Yeah,
season wasn't as impressive as the following seasons. I think he just got about just maybe 10 goals or a bit less even. I'm not too sure, but
yeah. It wasn't amazing.
yeah.
And I agree with you. I think you're spot on. I think he needs a preseason with Chelsea, but I think before that, he needs to go and have a brilliant Euros as well. I do think it'll be interesting if we do bring in a number 9 um, as a striker, because I think that will potentially complement him in some ways as well. So it'd be interesting to see who he brings if we bring anyone in, but also as well, I do think he's like you said, he's still done enough for me this season to see what potential there is. We knew what the potential was beforehand before we signed him anyway. He was in the German under 15s international. He's playing for German at that level. They don't just sign up someone for that, or call someone up to the international team at 15 if they're not good. And I think his numbers for RB Leipzig were I think it was 127 games, 78 appearances. Sorry, 78 goals. So that kind of tells you that and it's a completely different league. I get that, but it is going to take a lot of time for him to adapt and to understand how the Premier League is played. It's played at a lot of faster pace as well. You don't have that much time on the ball, but he doesn't need that. I think he just needs that confidence. I think he needs a full season with Tuchel under his belt as well. I'm sure there's things that they're working on, which we can kind of see the difference from when, Lampard had him, their coaching staff that was in place beforehand, and now with Tuchel and his coaching staff, there are differences that we are seeing with Werner. So I think it's more like you say, a confidence thing. he does need for me a full season before I can judge him. I know he's had that this season, but I mean a full season with Tuchel, working in the Premier League properly with the, like you say, with the fans back. Hopefully, we can get them back next season. Actually, but yeah, he needs that. I don't think, and like you said, I don't really. I have seen people bashing Werner, but I think that's just more in frustration because they
Mm,
know how good he actually can be, or
exactly.
how good he is, not how good he can be. Um, but I agree. He's got the goals that I wanted out of him. The assists that he's put in as well. Torres was the same. Torres didn't light up the Chelsea Stamford Bridge. The faithful, but when it mattered, he turned up. And he done a lot. He got a lot of goals in Europe as well for us that a lot of people forget about. So yeah, I'm happy that he's here. I hope because there's been talk of him leaving Chelsea as well already, which I hope is just fake news. But I can't see us
No,
selling. Can't see us
no.
selling him. It'd be silly. It'd be so silly. He's part of the project that we're trying to build at the moment. So
It'd be very silly to sell him, and I don't think we've very rarely, unless we've bought in someone like Pato or Falcao, learn. Very rarely have we lost patience with a player after one season.
yeah,
I don't think we've done that at all. In fact, so I think I'm expecting a lot better. I mean, more things from him next season, better performances with that preseason. Hopefully, a good Euros.
mm,
But he is a very sharp player. As well this season, I don't think we should be judging players on this season. You look at other rival teams. I don't think players who've come for big fees like Thomas Partey at Arsenal or
yeah,
even Thiago Alcantara at Liverpool, they haven't really impressed me that much.
yeah,
When I have watched them, but I just feel like because Werner's that number striker who has chances one on one with the keeper, those kind of missed chances stand out more from
mm,
in the football world or in the football community. So there seems a lot of attention on Timo Werner rather than these other players. Even Gareth Bale potentially, even though
yeah,
he's kind of proven his worth throughout the years. So I think this season's kind of almost like a write off in that way, in
yeah,
that sense. And next season should be the one we really focus on him. And I think, as you said, having that number 9, whether it's someone like Lautaro Martinez, someone like Haaland, someone like Lukaku, to come in and maybe complement his style of play, if he wants to play as a kind of a centre forward or a winger, then I think that will just kind of get boost up his numbers in terms of goals and assists. So yeah, next season is when I think it's going to be Timo Werner's season.
yeah. And just to add to that as well, Sadio Mane missed a sitter at the weekend, just gone as well. But no one mentioned it because it's Sadio Mane. But the less
Yeah,
said, the better. But I'm just saying that all strikers and attacking players have their days off, all their moments and bad patches of form. And I wouldn't even put that down to Timo Werner. I don't think he's had that bad of a season, to be
yeah,
honest. But
yeah.
I agree. We'll have to see how he does next season. Um, hopefully he comes back from the Euros refreshed and he's ready to just to kick on.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. Last thing I want to say about Werner very quickly is, I it was a bad miss against Madrid last night, but also an amazing Courtois save. I think we need to kind of point that out
yeah,
as well. I've played goalkeeper for my 11-a-side and six-a-side team, so I know a bit about goalkeeping. And it's a very good save because it's one-on-one, point blank range, and he's just sticking out that leg. So even though Werner should be smashing it in the roof of the net or slotting it, I think fair play to Courtois for reacting in time. So
yeah.
it's almost like 50-50 bad Werner miss, but also amazing Courtois save.
It's a good way to dampen the
It
miss, actually. Yeah, no, but it was a good save. It was a good
was a very
save.
good save. Yeah.
And we know Courtois is capable of that as well.
Mm.
Um, just as we wrap up, and I forgot to ask this on the Real Madrid segment. So my thinking is Hazard will start next week. I think he got a flavour of what we were going to expect from him when he came on. We didn't really mention him beforehand, but just as we wrap up, what were your thoughts when he came on initially, and how he played when he came on?
I mean, when I saw him come on, I thought it's almost written in the stars for him, especially of Chelsea's luck of ex players scoring against us. I thought he would score. I thought he would kind of at least do some kind of typical Hazard magic and maybe provide an assist or dribble past a defender and do some damage to our team. But at the same time, I felt we kept him at bay. I
Mm.
think I thought I think that if he plays, I think they play Osasuna, I think, on this weekend or another
Yeah,
Spanish team. I think he'll get more minutes in that game, potentially play one of the two halves. And I think similarly to you, I think he will start at Stamford Bridge next week. And I think, we know when Hazard does start a game, what he's capable of. So, um, Yeah, it's quite a scary thought, but it completely depends if he's come back from this injury fresh and back to his usual self, or if he's still kind of struggling a bit or carrying a bit of a bit of a pain in his, I think it's his ankle, his knee.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one, but Hazard on his day is a very very scary thought to play against. So I think our defense got to be extra sharp because he's going to be doing a better job than Vinicius or
Oh yeah.
Asensio or someone like that.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed we can keep him at bay again.
Yeah. It was worrying. I don't know how I felt watching him come on as a Real Madrid player. Courtois, I'm used to. I've got
Mm,
over Courtois, but Hazard, I think the way Hazard left, I think was so different to Courtois.
mm,
You can't really fault
yeah.
Hazard for the way he left, and he probably could have gone a season before, if we're honest, as well. But it did pay me a little bit to see him come on and even afterwards, I think I watched a bit of the analysis afterwards, and they interviewed him. It just seemed weird. He had like a Real
Mm,
Madrid, coat on. It was just yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays. I'm pretty sure he'll play the full game at Stamford Bridge. He's relished. He's always said he wants to come back at Stamford Bridge. It's a shame the fans aren't there, because I honestly do think the fans would give him a good reception.
yeah,
He's as much as he's moved on in his career for now. There's obviously talks of him coming back to Stamford Bridge at some point, but I do feel like he's got a big part that he's played at Chelsea that still matters to Chelsea fans. So I think yeah, I might change all these words, by the way. I might edit this part out next week if he scores against us and it's the winner. But yeah, brilliant to see him back. He's a good player still. You can tell that he's still got it as well.
yeah. I think he's kind of almost Zidane's pet, the teacher's pet in a way. And Zidane's kind of, since he's come back from that injury, he's only gone and praised him a lot more than he usually has. So I think it's almost like he seems mentally more ready now as well, after all these kind of setbacks with injuries. Um, and yeah, if we were at Stamford Bridge on Wednesday, it would be amazing to just welcome him back. The Prince of Stamford Bridge in a way, and the
Yeah,
way I think his final kick at Stamford Bridge was the penalty against Frankfurt to qualify us for the final in Baku, and then
yeah,
we know what he did in Baku. So he definitely overstayed, if anything, at his time at
yeah,
Stamford Bridge. You mentioned he wanted to leave, I think, the previous summer after the World Cup, and I think Abramovich or the Chelsea board pleaded him to stay one more year, which he agreed on, which goes to show what type of person he is,
yeah,
and how much Chelsea means to him, as he wants to leave on good terms. But he played a whole season basically knowing he was going to be leaving in the summer, and that was probably, I think, the 2018-2019 season was probably his best season in a
yeah,
Chelsea shirt. So yeah, excitedly nervous to see him play against us again next week.
yeah. No, I'm the same, but let's hope we can keep him quiet anyway.
Fingers crossed.
We can give him a round of applause at the end of the game when we're through to the final. Um, but as always, you can follow us on From the Shed End on Twitter. I think you said it's From the Shed Ends, but with underscores in between each of the words on Instagram as well. So we'll get that added for next week as well. As always, you can follow Theo at Sesky Time as well on Twitter. So give him a follow. Definitely keeps his content interesting. Trying to find the right word to use there. Interesting. And myself, T._producer. So for all sort of podcast related stuff or music, you can give me a follow as well. But always interact with us as much as you can. Obviously we want to get you guys involved as well. So yeah, just throw some questions at us. If you don't agree with what I'm saying or what Theo's saying, then just let us know. If you do agree, let us know. But either way, just interact with us if you can, and just show that you're out there. But as always, this is From the Shed End podcast. Myself, T Dart, and Theo. Thank you for listening.